Welcome back, chess fans. Today we're diving into an absolute gem of a chess puzzle from a legendary clash between two tactical wizards, Rashid Nezhmetdinov and Mikhail Tal. This position comes from their game in the 1961 RSFSR Championship in Sochi, where Nezhmetdinov, known for his razor-sharp attacking style, took on Tal, the former world champion famous for his magical sacrifices. Fun fact: Nezhmetdinov, who was a master of combinations but never quite got the Grandmaster title due to limited international play, actually had a winning record against Tal: 3 wins, 1 loss, and a draw. Tal himself once said Nezhmetdinov was one of the most creative players he'd ever faced. In this game, Nezhmetdinov played white and unleashed some brilliance here. It's white to move, and the position looks tense. White has pieces deep in black's territory, but black has a material edge. Let's break it down step by step and find the winning idea that even stumped a genius like Tal. First off, as a weaker player looking to improve, always start by checking for aggressive options like checks, captures, or threats. Here, white has a rook dominating the 7th rank on d7, so a natural candidate is sliding it over to g7 for a check. The rook zips to g7, putting the king in check. But black has solid ways to capture it. For example, the bishop on f6 could snap it up on g7, or the knight on e8 could grab it there. In either case, white's knight on e6 could recapture, but you'd be trading a rook for a lesser piece, and the evaluations show this leaves black with a clear edge. Material loss without enough compensation. Not the way to go if you want to keep the attack rolling. Remember, tactics have to work all the way through. Don't stop calculating halfway. Another intuitive idea a strong player might spot is using that knight on e6 to clear the e-file for the rook on e1. How about jumping the knight to d8? Knight hops to d8, which eyes some back-rank threats. The idea here is that now the e-file is open, so white threatens to slam the rook up to e8, capturing black's knight there and potentially checking the king. But since it's black's turn right after this move, they can respond. Maybe by snatching your hanging rook on d7 or disrupting the plan. This doesn't give white a big advantage. It's playable, but not crushing. It's a good lesson. Clearing lines is key in chess, but timing matters. Here, it gives black too much time to counter. Now, let's get to the star of the show, the brilliant, quiet move that turns the tables. It's not a check or a capture, but it sets up a devastating threat. White plays the rook from e1 over to f1. Boom, the rook slides gently to f1. At first glance, this looks innocent, like just repositioning a piece. But oh boy, it's loaded with poison. By moving to f1, the rook now attacks straight up the f-file, zeroing in on black's bishop on f6. See that bishop highlighted on f6? It's now under direct fire. With the rook on f1 highlighted, white is threatening to slide the rook all the way to f6, capturing the bishop. Why is this so powerful? Because if black lets that happen and, say, recaptures with the knight from e8 to f6, grabbing the rook, white then unleashes the other rook from d7 to g7 for checkmate. See, by capturing on f6, black would be luring their own knight away from e8 and removing their own bishop that guards g7. This is a classic example of deflection. You threaten to sacrifice to pull defenders away from their posts, opening the door for mate. Beautiful stuff. Nezhmetdinov was a master at these forcing sequences. As for escape squares in that scenario, the king can't take on g7 because it's protected by white's knight on e6. Arrow showing the knight attacking g7. And f8 gets hit by the same knight. Arrow to f8. No safe haven. Of course, a sharp player like Tal wouldn't fall into that trap blindly. He'd spot the danger and try the only aggressive counter, moving the threatened bishop with a check. Back to after the rook to f1. Tal's response would be pushing the bishop to d4 with check. Bishop to d4, checking the king on g1 along the open diagonal through e3 and f2, both empty squares. Highlighting d4 to show the checking spot. This saves the bishop from capture while forcing white to react. But here's where white's preparation shines. The rook on d7 simply captures the bishop on d4. Rook takes on d4. Gone. And notice d4 isn't defended by any black piece. Still highlighting d4 to emphasize it's unprotected. No pawn, knight, or anything guards it. White picks up a free bishop, swinging the material back in their favor. Plus, white's knight on e6 and remaining rook are super active, controlling key squares and eyeing more threats like pushing the d-pawn or invading further. Black's position crumbles under the pressure. White's up big positionally too, with better coordination and king safety. In the actual game, Tal did play bd4+, but after Nezhmetdinov took it, white went on to win convincingly. This move, rf1, teaches us so much. Sometimes the best tactics start quietly, building unstoppable threats. It combines ideas like file opening, deflection, and precise calculation. If you're a developing player, practice spotting these idea moves. Look beyond the obvious checks and ask, what if I prepare a bigger punch? Thanks for watching. Drop a like if this helped your chess thinking. Subscribe for more breakdowns and let me know in the comments. Would you have found RF1? See you next time.